Hello, Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com. Today I'm going to go ahead and pick and review the DesignCourse.com Design Challenge number 4, which is designing GUI or graphical user interface elements. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the screen to do that. All right, so I'm going to click here on the challenge for GUI elements design. So of course it must include a horizontal slider, vertical toggle buttons, and a radial percentage loader. And I linked here just to a few different, I guess you could say, designs for inspiration, basically what I'm looking for. And so let's go ahead with the first entry, which is the LG Portfolio, who has won a contest or two before. And I like this right off the bat. There's good contrast here between the elements that have loaded versus not loaded. So, you know, we have this, I guess you could say, kind of like a fiery orange / yellow color. And then, of course, here is a darker color. So the contrast is good. The consistency is good. As we can see through all these elements, she's remained consistent in terms of, you know, keeping the same color scheme. In terms of simplicity, I like it as well. I would like to see a version of this not perspective skew, but that's fine. That's not a big deal. It's not really a mark against you. So yeah, I like this. I'm going to come down here to BTDL, and so I think maybe one of my gripes with this might be, you know, I could see that there's kind of like a diagonal gradient for the background that's going down here. I probably would have liked to see that. You could probably still keep that, but maybe not make it so dark for this bottom color picker of the gradient. Maybe, you know, you can leave it this light up here, but maybe just take this up a few notches in terms of lightness, because it kind of changes the overall feel of the elements themselves when you have a gradient that's going from light to quite a bit darker, I guess you could say. Over here, it's a little bit better. It's not so much more noticeable. But yeah, in terms of the colors, you know, I like the contrast between the buttons. You could tell that there's a clear contrast. Like for instance, up here we have a dark portion, and down here is a light portion, which is good for highlights and emulating, you know, what is 3D. And I would say for the up here, the actual text, I would say instead of making it white, which is the same color as this, but over here the background, getting rid of the outer glow and then just make it black. It would just make it a lot more simple to read, especially the percentage sign here, which is a little bit smaller and it gets a little bit cluttered. So yeah, I would just make this a flat black color probably, and that way the amount of contrast is good. The green loading portion, I would say that probably would have a slightly better, it would stand out a little bit better. Like for instance, if this was maybe almost black, so you could see it more, because you can't really see it on this side or even on this white portion. And so maybe even changing up the color of this as well would make it seem a little bit more consistent. So making it green, for instance, maybe a darker green, and then having a light up here would make it stick out a lot more. Just my opinion. Otherwise, it's good. All right, so let's move on down here to Brian. And I like this, but I think there's probably one extremely simple step that could be taken to make it a lot better. See, because the elements themselves, I like it. You know, everything's the layers and the subtle colors, the highlight up here, along with the portions in which you would, you know, grab over here. There's 3 marks right here. Everything's, I really like it in terms of the detail and how it stands out. But the thing that I think that would really just help bring these elements out more and make it more visible is by simply making the background a little bit lighter, because right now you can't really tell too much of a difference between these, the full vertical bar versus the background. So I would take the background here, the whole background, and just lighten it up. And that way these elements would stick out a lot more. They would be a lot more noticeable, because I like how cool these elements are designed. And so I would even probably, instead of, if this is off, I would make like an off state, make it look like an empty glass thing right there. But yeah, I like it though. Just a minor critique, maybe if you can, make it a little bit, maybe just a couple shades lighter. It doesn't have to be like, you know, this color or anything. It could be close to this color, but a little bit less, and I think this would stick out a lot more. I like it. Come down here, B2DL. I pretty much have the same critique when it comes to the background and the contrast. Also with the bevel right here, kind of looks like these are default bevels, like for the layer styles. If you double click on the layer styles in Photoshop and then bring up and just check off the bevels, it seems like maybe not much was changed about that. And so it kind of has just this default look of being the default bevel from Photoshop. But yeah, I like the idea of like having this is definitely unique, having this portion down there, the screws and such. But yeah, like the contrast, I would say, is one of the areas that I would probably try to improve. And also these look like horizontal and vertical sliders here. Maybe make those thicker. They seem real small. It would, in terms of usability, it would be kind of hard to grab them. But I'm going to come down here. We have Madhurias. I always try to pronounce it. I always get it wrong. Over here, this background color, for some reason, I'm just not a fan of like a mid-gray background color for some reason. It'd either be dark or a lot lighter. But in terms of the design, you know, it's simple. There's nothing too elaborate going on. I might want to make the on and off text maybe bold or stick out a little bit more. And again, you know, the background color being this color, and then this over here, I would probably prefer to see this portion where it's the off portion over here or the on portion over here be darker in here. That way it would stick out a little bit more. Same thing with this. It would be a little bit darker in this areas, and everything would just kind of stick out a tad bit more. Or if you didn't want to adjust that, just make the background lighter. And I think it would work well. It does work well as is, but these are just critiques, of course. All right, and yeah, this I would say is kind of an improvement overall from this over here, because the second entry is just a darker version. I like how you've used this radial, I guess you could say, ovals right here, or rounded rectangles. That's definitely cool, especially how they change. So I like that. When it comes to the background, again, probably the same, almost the same gripe that I have over here. They don't stick out too much when you're comparing them with the background. Now you do have the, what do you call it, the highlighter here, which is definitely good, but I think you could have taken a step further by either making this darker or the background just a hair lighter or darker. That way, you know, they're not almost kind of clashing. But that's minor. This is actually pretty good. So we have this Chris, and these stick out pretty well, so you notice we don't really have the issues with contrast when it comes to these portions. And you can pretty clearly see, you know, the portion that is, you know, highlighted or up to 80% with the blue. So yeah, I really don't have too much to say about this in terms of critiquing. These seem to work pretty well. Maybe make this slightly darker, but that's really not that big of a deal. Kind of like it. I like that you've entered like a couple of different options. That's always good. And yeah, everything's, the contrast, the color, the consistency is good. So this is good. All right, LG Portfolio. Now they entered 2, or she entered 2. So yeah, the same type of skews going on here. I would say, I mean, contrasting this one with the first entry it's submitted, I definitely kind of just like this more. Everything kind of just stands out, but just for a different look, this isn't really bad. I would say this kind of seems to the brightness versus this in here, like this outer edge and the inner edge, they kind of clash, or there's not much contrast rather. So a quick fix would just be to make this lighter right here, or a different hue of blue or something like that. But that's a minor critique, really. I would also say probably another minor critique would be the font size of on and off. There's not much white space around here in this portion, although that's just being real nitpicky. I mean, you probably get away with this, it's just fine. And the same thing with the 70%. But then over here we have kind of like a Warcraft type of design. I like it. I wish it would have been able to see it like at the actual, you know, the regular resolution in orientation, but you tell a lot of cool stuff going on here. It was very gamerish, obviously, so I like it. Definitely interesting. But yeah, I just would have wished to seen the regular version. You could post it if you want, if you have it. So yeah, not too much to critique. It's kind of hard when it's skewed like this, actually. But and then coming down here to hake or whatever. This kind of feels a little old school. I mean, not to say that's a bad thing, just with the tune and all this. I'd say, yeah, I could see that it looks like he tried to apply some sort of like blur on certain portions. That's not bad. Maybe a little bit less so, because in terms of it being realistic, a realistic 3D environment, I don't think you would have, you know, the stitching on leather, for instance, going, you know, so blurred like that in our perspective. Over here, I mean, I like it. It's kind of cool. Like I said, it's sort of like 80s vintage type of design. Would have been cool to see a switched or flipped version of this, like this one to this one being flipped up, or this that turned off, or one of those. And this is kind of small, so maybe just it could have probably increased the size just a tad bit of these elements. But yeah, overall though, I like how the lighting seems consistent, and yeah, maybe I would say on the chrome portions, maybe slightly just take those down, maybe the opacity on that specific layer style, and just drop it down a tad bit. It seems like they come out a little bit too much, but that, again, that's just maybe a personal preference. And that is it. So I liked all the entries. I was expecting maybe to get lesser quality because this is more of a elaborate sort of design contest with designing all these interesting elements. But if I had to choose a winner, which I guess I have to because these are challenges, I would go between this entry right here and possibly this entry right here. If it was just, man, if that background color was just kind of, you know what, I'm going to try something real quick just for the hell of it. I'm going to load up Photoshop real quick. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to try to at least, and just see if I can get a general idea of what this would look like with the background slightly lighter. Let me scale this down, get this back into view, and all right, so file new, paste that sucker in. Now if we take the paint bucket tool, make the tolerance like 3 or something, we'll get this color right here and just go up a hair, see what happens here. I mean, it's not going to be perfect because I'm not working with individual layers, obviously. That's a little bit too bright. Yeah, everything kind of pops out right away a lot better just with that very slight adjustment in terms of you know, the background color. So yeah, that would have been cool. I mean, it is cool. I mean, it's just a very quick and very minor adjustment can make a big difference, in my opinion. So so yeah, just for that minor, I'd say, background issue, I'm going to go ahead with ALG Portfolio, who also won last week's contest. So, you know, this is the person you're going to have to gun for, depending on once I come up with the design challenge number 5, which I'm not really sure what I'm going to choose yet. But yeah, congratulations, and thanks everyone for entering these design challenges. They're going well. So yeah, we're going to have a design challenge 5 coming up pretty soon, and I hope you enter. All right, so check out DesignCourse.com if you haven't yet. Getting very close to launching DesignCourse Premium, and I'm working on it in the background. So if I click on Viz ID, for example, Has all these are all videos, and they're project follow-alongs where you see that I'm designing full visual identities. And then Mentor is the one-on-one design training, and it's split up into 2 different sections. So right now I just have back here just VisID for visual identity design, which is all things logo design and like corporate identity. In the future, I'm going to have more such as mobile design, app design / also website design. And Mentor will be a product or service that you can use in conjunction with all of these different projects I'm going to be releasing in the future, and initially VisID. So you go to Mentor, you'll see that these are VisID projects that you can tackle basically. And if I click on one of these, like here's One Jewel. So there's a company called One Jewel. I have to fix this. There's no space at the bottom. It's still a work in progress. And it tells you basically a brief about the company, and your job is to come up with a visual identity design, a logo, a business card, and an identity guideline. And you learn how to you learn how to do all this stuff in the VisID course over here with the videos. And then you come over here, and once you learned, you know, what you've learned through those videos and following along, you can tackle trying to do something from scratch on your own. And so once you've done that, you can attach the project image, whether it be the logo, the business card, and the identity guideline. You can provide a comment and then hit submit. Once you submit, it shows up down here in this area, and then I provide a response based on your individual submission, and I address areas that you can improve on through video and also through text. So that's what Mentor is. And so this will be available for all future projects over. So VisID, that's the first one. There will be another one for, say, for example, when I have one for website design, there will be fictional projects down there. And so the whole purpose of Mentor is, you know, once you've watched those video courses, now it's time to try to put what you learned into practice and then further refine what you've come up with. Because just watching a video, I mean, it's great. Those are great for learning, you know, the very basics, but I'm sure, you know, this is something I faced. When you go to actually design your own project, though, it's hard to replicate the same level of quality as when you're just trying to follow along through, you know, a project step by step. So this is what Mentor is all about. And you could also say, for example, you know, if you join up, coming up, I'm trying to get this done within the next 20 days and all launched. Say, for example, you join when I launch, and there's only, you know, visual identity projects. But you need help with maybe a banner design or a website design, well, you could submit a personal project over here. And so you submit a project, make it the title, maybe like my portfolio design. You can attach the mock-up image and submit it, and then I'll also come down here and I will provide you with basically guidance about how you can improve, or if there's any areas that you need improved. So yeah, that's going to be launching very soon. I'm hoping within the next week and a half or 2. So look out for that, and check out also the YouTube channel and subscribe there if you haven't yet. And I'll see you tomorrow with a new video. All right, goodbye.